He came home carrying a war no one could see. A retired soldier, a silent K9. Two souls trained to survive, not belong. In Greyhaven, fear arrived disguised as justice. Headlines, sirens, hands reaching to tear them apart. Then everything collapsed, until one hidden moment surfaced. One truth they tried to bury. The world stopped, and in that shattering second, silence broke. Not with violence, but with hope roaring back to life. The town of Greyhaven, Oregon never fully woke up. It existed in a permanent state of early morning, fog hanging low over cedar rooftops, salt air clinging to every breath, time moving slower than it should. It was the kind of place men came to disappear or to remember. Ethan Walker stood near the edge of the boardwalk, hands resting loosely at his sides, eyes fixed on the horizon where the ocean blurred into the sky. He wore an old multicam field jacket, the fabric faded and soft from years of use. On his head sat a black cap stitched with simple white letters, U.S. Army Veteran. Two dog tags hung against his chest, dull with age but still clean, still squared. Regulation. Always regulation. A thick black military-style watch wrapped his wrist, oversized and scratched, but running perfectly on time. Ethan was in his late 40s, though his face carried the weight of more years than that. His posture was straight without effort, his movements economical, like a man who never wasted energy. He didn't fidget. He didn't scan nervously. But he saw everything. Beside him sat Rex. The German shepherd was large, solid, and alert, brown and black coat tight over powerful muscle. He wore no leash, only a wide tactical collar, worn but well kept, with Ethan's name and unit number stitched into the fabric. Not decoration, identification. Rex sat close, not touching, but aligned. His ears were upright, rotating slightly with every sound. The distant gulls, footsteps on wet wood, a car door closing 3 streets away. His eyes followed Ethan more than the world. They had been together a long time. People in Greyhaven noticed them, even if they didn't stare. The quiet man and the shepherd had become part of the scenery these past few weeks. Some nodded politely. Some crossed the street. Ethan didn't mind either way. He hadn't come to Greyhaven looking for trouble. He hadn't come looking for anything at all. After 23 years in uniform, the silence felt unfamiliar, too wide, too empty. A sharp voice broke the stillness. "Move your dog." Ethan turned slowly. A young man stood several feet away, dressed too clean for the weather. Designer jacket, spotless sneakers, irritation written plainly across his face, confidence without foundation, money without restraint. Rex shifted, placing himself half a step closer to Ethan. He didn't growl. He didn't bark. He simply watched. "He's not in your way," Ethan said. His voice was low, even, carrying no challenge. The young man scoffed. "Dogs like that shouldn't be in public. Makes people nervous." Ethan studied him for a moment. He'd seen this type before. Not on battlefields, but behind desks, at checkpoints, in places where power was borrowed and never earned. "Then walk around," Ethan replied. That was when the young man smiled. Not humor, not friendliness, something sharper. He took a step closer, too close. Rex rose to his feet, smooth and controlled, positioning his body between Ethan and the stranger. His ears stayed forward. His tail remained still. A warning. Silent. Clear. The young man reacted badly. "Hey, Taki, get that animal under control!" he snapped, lifting his foot in a sudden reckless motion, not striking, but threatening enough to freeze the air around them. Ethan moved. It wasn't fast. It wasn't dramatic. One moment he was still. The next, his hand was wrapped firmly around the man's wrist, stopping the motion before it finished. His grip was iron, not crushing, just final. "Step back," Ethan said. The young man laughed nervously, trying to pull free. He couldn't. "You think you're tough?" he sneered. "Do you know who my father is?" Ethan leaned in slightly, just enough for the man to see his eyes up close. "I don't care," he said. For a long second, the world held its breath. Then Ethan released him. The young man stumbled back, anger and embarrassment warring across his face. "This isn't over," he spat, retreating toward the street. "You don't know what you just started." Ethan watched him go. Rex sat back down beside him, calm once more, eyes still tracking until the man disappeared. The fog rolled in thicker from the sea. Ethan exhaled slowly. He had come to Greyhaven for peace. But peace, it seemed, had other plans. The first police cruiser arrived before the fog had time to lift. Ethan heard the siren long before it appeared. Short burst, deliberate. Not an emergency. A statement. Rex felt it too, ears pivoting, body tensing without standing. Two officers stepped out. Local. One older, one younger. The older man took the lead, his posture cautious but practiced. "Morning," the officer said. "We got a call about an altercation." Ethan nodded once. There was a disagreement. The younger officer glanced at Rex, hand drifting toward his belt. Not his weapon, his radio. Fear had rules. Training didn't always erase them. "Dogs under control?" the younger one asked. Ethan looked at Rex. "Sit." Rex obeyed instantly. The older officer watched closely. He'd seen obedience before, not the kind that came from treats. "Name?" he asked. "Ethan Walker." "Military?" the officer said, already guessing. "Yes, sir." The older man's expression shifted slightly. Respect? Maybe. Caution, more likely. Before he could say anything else, a black SUV rolled up and stopped abruptly near the boardwalk. The same young man from earlier stepped out, now flanked by two men in suits who looked like they didn't belong to the weather or the town. One of them spoke fast and confidently. "That's him. That's the man who assaulted my client." Ethan felt the temperature drop. The younger officer turned sharply. "Assault?" the suited man continued. "Threatened him with an attack dog. Grabbed him. Very aggressive behavior." Rex didn't move, but Ethan felt the shift in the air, the invisible line being redrawn, the story being rewritten without him. "I restrained him when he tried to kick my dog," Ethan said calmly. The young man laughed. "That's a lie." The older officer raised a hand. Everyone slowed down. But the damage was done. A small crowd had begun to gather, phones coming out, whispers forming. Someone muttered the word dangerous. Another said military dog like it was a loaded term. The suited man smiled faintly. "We're prepared to file a formal complaint." My client felt his life was in danger. Ethan's jaw tightened, not in anger, but recognition. He knew this terrain. Accusation was a weapon. Paperwork was ammunition. The older officer turned to Ethan. "I'm going to need to run your ID, and we'll have to document the dog." Rex stood slowly, positioning himself close to Ethan's leg. "Stay," Ethan whispered. Rex stayed. Minutes passed. The fog lifted just enough to reveal more faces, more cameras. Someone began filming openly. A woman's voice cut through the noise. "That dog saved my nephew last week." Heads turned. She stepped forward, mid-40s, wearing a coffee shop apron. "Kid fell off the dock. That dog barked until people came running. You gonna arrest him too?" Murmurs followed. Conflicting stories collided in the air. The suited man's smile thinned. "This isn't over," he said quietly, leaning toward Ethan. "We know who you are, and we know your dog." That landed. Ethan's eyes hardened, not with rage, but calculation. The older officer cleared his throat. "No arrests today, but I suggest you leave the boardwalk for now, for everyone's sake." It wasn't justice. It was containment. Ethan nodded, so understood. As he walked away, Rex at his side, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years: pressure. That night, a notice was taped to the door of the small cabin he was renting. Notice of investigation, potentially dangerous animal. Rex sat beside him as he read it, tail brushing the floor. "They're coming for you," Ethan said quietly. Rex looked up at him, calm, unafraid. Ethan folded the paper carefully. "Then they'll have to come through me first." Outside, headlights paused longer than they should have. Greyhaven was done pretending to be peaceful. The story hit the internet before sunrise. Ethan found it on his phone while Rex lay curled near the heater, breathing slow and steady. The headline burned brighter than the screen itself. "Local man threatens pedestrian with military attack dog." Below it, a grainy video clip looped endlessly, shot from across the boardwalk. No sound, no context, just a freeze frame of Ethan's hand on the young man's wrist, Rex standing between them, ears sharp, mouth closed. A still image, a verdict. By noon, 3 more outlets had picked it up, each version worse than the last. Unprovoked confrontation, former soldier loses control, questions raised about violent tendencies among veterans. Ethan shut the phone off. He had faced enemy propaganda before. This was more polished, more legal. A knock came at the door. 2 officials stood outside. Animal control this time. 1 woman, 1 man, clipboards, neutral expressions sharpened by procedure. "We're here regarding Rex," the woman said. "There's been a complaint." Ethan stepped aside without argument. Rex watched silently, tail low but calm. The man read from his paper. "Pending investigation, the dog may be classified as a potentially dangerous animal. We'll need to conduct a behavioral assessment." "And if you decide he fails?" Ethan asked. The woman hesitated. "He could be seized, temporarily." Temporarily was a word that lied. "I want a lawyer present," Ethan said. They exchanged a look. "That's your right." After they left, the cabin felt smaller. Rex rose and rested his head against Ethan's leg. Ethan knelt, pressing his forehead briefly to the dog's. "You don't bark," he whispered. "You don't lunge. You don't miss." Rex exhaled softly. The phone buzzed again. A voicemail this time. "Mr. Walker?" a smooth male voice said. "My name is Daniel Crow. I represent the family involved in yesterday's incident. We believe this situation can be resolved quietly, if you cooperate." Quietly. Ethan deleted the message. That afternoon, the second phase began. A van parked across the street. A woman with perfect hair and a microphone stood in front of it. "We're outside the home of a man accused of threatening violence with a military-trained dog," she said to the camera. "Neighbors say they're afraid." Ethan watched from behind the curtain. No neighbors stood behind her. By evening, his name trended locally. Someone dug up his service record, selectively. They omitted commendations, highlighted deployments, used words like combat exposure and psychological impact without evidence. A panel discussion aired that night. One guest leaned forward. "These dogs are weapons, and when paired with unstable individuals..." Ethan turned the TV off mid-sentence. The knock came again, this time heavier. A man in his late 50s stood outside, hands visible, posture familiar. "Mind if I come in?" he asked. Ethan studied him for a second, then nodded. The man introduced himself as Tom Alvarez, retired police captain. He glanced at Rex, who remained still. "That dog isn't dangerous," Tom said flatly. "I've seen dangerous." Ethan exhaled for the first time all day. "They're stacking paper," Tom continued. "Media pressure forces animal control's hand. Civil court follows. They don't need truth, just momentum." "What do they want?" Ethan asked. "To make you fold. Sign a settlement. Surrender the dog." Ethan's jaw set. Tom leaned in. "You don't fold." Ethan shook his head once. "Then you fight smart," Tom said. "No statements, no interviews, and we document everything." That night, Ethan lay awake. Rex slept lightly, ears twitching at every sound. Headlights passed, then slowed, then passed again. Somewhere in town, another headline was being drafted. Ethan stared at the ceiling, the weight of old instincts stirring. He had survived worse than this. But this time, the battlefield had cameras, and the enemy wore smiles. The hearing lasted 12 minutes. No jury, no grand speeches. Just a small municipal room that smelled faintly of disinfectant and old coffee. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, steady and indifferent. Ethan stood alone at the table. Across from him sat two representatives from Animal Control, a city attorney, and, 3 seats back, Daniel Crow. The lawyer's tie was perfectly straight, his expression professionally sympathetic. The judge never looked at Rex. She looked at the paperwork. "The court finds sufficient cause," she said, voice flat. "Pending full investigation, the animal will be remanded to city custody." Ethan felt it then. Not anger, failure. Rex sat at his feet, calm, trusting. He had no concept of remand or custody, only orders. Ethan knelt. "Stay," he whispered, voice steady through force of will. Rex's ears twitched. He sat. 2 officers stepped forward with a leash that smelled wrong, new, impersonal. Rex glanced once at Ethan, searching for confirmation. Ethan nodded. That was enough. The door closed behind them with a sound that felt permanent. Outside, cameras waited. "Mr. Walker, do you feel this decision validates public concern? Is this proof the dog was dangerous? Do you regret your military training?" Ethan didn't stop walking. By evening, the cabin felt hollow, too quiet in the wrong way. Rex's bowl remained full. His blanket lay folded by the heater. Ethan didn't move them. The phone rang once, then again. Messages stacked up, some supportive, most not. "You people are ticking time bombs. That dog should be put down. Go back to where you came from." Ethan turned the phone face down. He sat at the small table and stared at his hands. They trembled slightly. He hadn't noticed at first. The nightmares came early that night. Not explosions, not gunfire, doors closing. Morning brought rain and another headline. "Court seizes dog in veteran case, community relieved." A photo showed Ethan mid-step, eyes downcast. It was framed to make him look smaller. Tom Alvarez called at noon. "They're moving fast," Tom said. "Civil suit's coming. They'll push for permanent removal." Ethan didn't answer. By the 3rd day, Greyhaven turned its back. The coffee shop locked its door when he approached. A landlord left a notice under his door. Lease terminated due to public concern. Someone scratched killer into the wood near his truck. Ethan packed silently. On the 4th night, he drove out of town and parked near the old logging road. Rain drummed against the windshield. He rested his forehead on the steering wheel. For the first time since discharge, his breath hitched. Not a sob, just a fracture. "You were supposed to be safe," he said aloud, to no one. The world didn't answer. At dawn, he drove back. Animal Control's facility sat on the edge of town, low concrete, no windows near the ground. Ethan parked across the street. He didn't get out. He watched the door. He imagined Rex inside, alert, confused, waiting. His phone buzzed. A text. Unknown number. I was there. The boardwalk. I have video. Not the one they're using. Ethan straightened. Another message followed. Your dog never moved. The man did. Ethan stared at the screen. Hope was dangerous. He knew that. But it was alive. Across the street, a kennel door opened. A bark echoed faintly. Deep, controlled. Ethan closed his eyes. He wasn't done. Not yet. The video was 37 seconds long. Ethan watched it once, then again. It was shot from the opposite side of the boardwalk, steady, unobstructed, with sound. The young man's voice was clear. Kick your mud out of the way. Rex stood still. Foot lifted, Ethan moved. End of clip. No jump cuts, no blur, no ambiguity. The timestamp matched. The angle proved distance. The audio removed doubt. Ethan didn't hesitate. He forwarded the file to Tom Alvarez. Send it everywhere, Ethan said. Now. By noon, the first correction appeared. Not an apology, just a quiet update. New footage emerges in veteran dog incident. By 1 p.m., it was everywhere. Side-by-side comparisons flooded social media. The cropped viral clip versus the full recording. Comment sections turned feral, this time in the opposite direction. They lied. They edited it. This guy was protecting his dog. A local radio host replayed the audio twice on air. That's not an attack dog, he said. That's restraint. Animal Control called it too. We need to reassess, the woman said, voice suddenly careful. The behavioral classification may have been premature. At 3, Daniel Crow's voicemail arrived. Mr. Walker, he said, slower now. Perhaps we should revisit our earlier conversation. Ethan deleted it. At 4, the woman from the coffee shop posted publicly. I was there. The dog saved my nephew. This man saved that dog. It was shared 5,000 times in an hour. The evening news led with a different headline. Edited video sparked outrage in Greyhaven case. The reporter's tone was neutral, but the damage had shifted. That night, Ethan returned to the Animal Control facility, this time with Tom beside him, documents in hand, phones already recording. They didn't argue. They didn't raise their voices. They waited. Rex was brought out on a short lead. He didn't bark. He walked straight to Ethan and sat. Perfect. The evaluator hesitated. He shows no aggressive indicators, she said reluctantly. Response latency is low. Obedience is exceptional. Tom smiled without warmth. Document it. The temporary order was lifted. Rex was released back into Ethan's custody, pending final review. Outside, a camera waited. Ethan knelt, hand resting briefly on Rex's neck. He didn't change, Ethan said into the microphone. The story did. The clip went viral by morning. Not the shouting, not the outrage, the silence, the way Rex sat, the way Ethan didn't gloat. The next day, Crow withdrew his client's civil claim, unofficially. Greyhaven woke up different. People nodded again, some apologized, others avoided eye contact. Ethan didn't need either. That evening, he walked the boardwalk with Rex at his side. The fog rolled in, familiar now. This time it didn't feel like hiding. It felt like cover. Greyhaven returned to normal faster than Ethan expected. The news cycle moved on. Another outrage replaced the last. The vans left. The microphones disappeared. People went back to pretending they'd never chosen a side. Ethan didn't pretend. He walked Rex every morning along the boardwalk. Same pace, same route. No leash unless required. Rex stayed close, scanning out of habit, not fear. The town allowed them again. That didn't mean it understood them. A letter arrived from the city, formal, cautious. Notice of policy review regarding the classification of working and retired K-9 units. No apology, no admission, just procedure. Tom Alvarez stopped by that afternoon. He leaned against the railing, coffee in hand, watching Rex sit alert near Ethan's feet. "They won't come at you directly anymore," Tom said. "Next time it'll be cleaner." Ethan nodded. He had known that already. "You thinking of staying?" Tom asked. Ethan didn't answer right away. He watched the ocean, the fog thinning, then thickening again. "I don't run," Ethan said finally. "But I don't plant flags either." That night, Ethan received another message. Different number, different tone. "Saw how you handled Greyhaven. Might need someone like you. Off the books. No cameras." Ethan stared at the screen. Rex lifted his head, sensing the shift. Ethan locked the phone and slipped it into his pocket. Somewhere in town, a meeting was happening without him. A local councilman argued quietly with a legal advisor. "We can't let this happen again," the advisor said. "One viral video nearly cost us everything." The councilman frowned. "Then we control the next one." Across town, in a small shelter, a dog barked once. Sharp, anxious. Ethan paused mid-step on the boardwalk. Rex's ears went forward. They both heard it. Ethan turned toward the sound, just slightly. The town lights flickered. Greyhaven wasn't done, and neither was he.